Thank you again for being here and welcome to the Thrive Sister Thrive podcast, Ze'ev. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you because, I feel like a lot of people, more and more people now they know a little bit about the fact that when they have water coming out of their tap in their home, that it probably has some chemicals and some not so great things in it. I don't think most people know exactly how bad it can be. In fact, I did an episode recently on my podcast, episode 9, for listeners who want to check that out. And I'll link to it in the show notes. But it was all about water safety and the chemicals and the issues around that. Things that we would never imagine are in our tap water are in our tap water. And I think so people are becoming a little bit more aware of that. But I know that most people don't know, and I only just actually recently learned not too long ago myself about some of the other damage that's happening to our water as it makes its way to our taps and things like just being like the mineral deficit that happens. It loses so much of its natural goodness and the structural damage that happens to it and things. And I know that's a lot of what you talk about, and you and Shai have studied. So I'm super excited to have you talk about that in a little bit. And you two are really with the Mayu Water Company, your company. You are doing some incredible work. I think you're solving you're solving a lot of problems. You're not only for people but for the planet, and which is obviously very important also. And you're taking such a unique approach to it, I think, which is just so much fun to watch and so impressive. So thank you to both you and Shai for your amazing and beautiful work that you're doing in the world. It's truly inspiring, and I'm a huge fan of your
Oh,
product,
great,
and I can't wait
great.
to see what other ones you come out with. And I've been using it for a while. We're going to talk about that later, but first we're going to get into some water stuff because there's so much that people don't know that I think is just so beneficial to understand. So. But before I do that, before I get into my first question, just in case I mess it up in the intro that I record later, if you could pronounce yours and Shai, both of yours first and last name, so that the listeners can hear it directly from you in case I mess it up with my American accent.
Perfect. So I'm Ze'ev Zohar, and my partner Shai Eden.
Yes. Thank you so much for that because I will do my best, but you know how these things go. So
Yeah, it's okay.
I think a good place to start is with the basics, just a little bit before we get into some of the really cool stuff that people are going to be surprised to learn about water. I think, but if you could just explain kind of what you have learned through the years of all your research that you've been doing about sort of what condition is our water in by the time it actually hits the tap in our homes. In other words, what's happened to it along the way and what's it like, what kind of state is it in by that time?
Wow, that's a big question. Um, because
Yes.
water really kind of
Take your time.
water really uh, carries its journey with it. So the state that the water comes out of the tap is really kind of you have to trace all the journey down to where the water started. But I think the to start with the basic, we must first kind of see what water is, kind of what is it giving, meaning life. Where there is water, there's life. Where there's no water, there's no life.
Yes.
This is the one element that kind of make this blue planet so unique in the whole universe. You have it in three phases. Yeah, you have it in air and liquid and in the same planet at the same condition, and it's really a material that doesn't act like any other material. It has 72 different
Right.
anomalies, meaning different ways that if you expect a liquid or a certain material to act, water acts differently. And each one of these 72 um, um, anomalies, like if one of them wouldn't exist, life as we know it could not exist. So water is really something very delicate and very complex and simple at the same time, like the way nature can do it.
Yeah.
And this is what gave life on Earth, like for since the day, um, since the dawn of history, let's say, or dawn of time. and and it did it in a certain way that it's kind of recycling. Okay, so each time it gives life, and then it reached to the ocean or to a lake, and then it evaporates to the clouds. That's the recycle part,
Mm-hmm.
or let's say a restart. Everything that is not pure H2O is uh, rest on the ground, and in the clouds you have like the purest form. So it's restarting, it's memory, it's kind of condition, and then it starts the journey again.
Mm-hmm.
And the quality of water is that one of them is that it's a universal solvent, meaning it reacts with everything that it touches. So the minute the water drop starts in the cloud, it starts observing materials from the air, from the dust, and kind of building itself to the water that we know. Then it falls on the ground and carries more minerals and more nutrients, and then in the soil,
Mm.
carrying more and more. And then it goes out the spring. That's where most of the mammals, let's say, like to drink water, and us as well, because that's where
Right.
it's kind of ready for us. Okay, so and in a way, water is it's like the blood of Earth. Yeah, it takes nutrients from one place and then helps carry the waste back and recycle itself. Now,
Mm-hmm.
fast forward to our time, then
Yeah.
water evaporates the same way. The sun, thanks God, is keep on shining and giving energy. But then the minute that the droplet has formed in the clouds, then the kind of water cycle is a bit breaking because it observed
Okay.
what we have in our air, which is many times a bit polluted. And this small
Yeah.
pollution starts imbalancing the water because it becomes a bit more toxic because of the CO2, and it starts absorbing more than usual. Because it's again, every element is amazing. The rain at itself, it's empty of minerals, and then it's kind of more corrosive.
Yeah.
It wants to uh, absorb more. And as it gets to a certain balance, it reaches the right pH and it stops absorbing. So there is really, it's
Mm.
natural balance. So if you take more CO2 in water, like you have in the air, then it becomes more toxic, it absorbs
Yeah.
even more. And then when you go down to the ground, you have like most of our open areas are agriculture areas with a lot of chemicals on the plants and on
Yeah.
the soil. And so it's kind of picking up all that there is on its way. And then in the pipelines, everything that is in the pipeline also kind of the water reacts. And so at the end, the state
Mm-hmm.
of the water, if we are returning to your question, if I'm talking just on the chemical
Sure.
level, because it's really a lot of different levels in water, on the chemical level, the water that you get at the end of the pipeline is exactly the composition of everything the water has been touching during its journey to you. And some say they kind of
Right.
they are saying, okay, but no, maybe the municipalities are testing the water or kind of filtering if there is any problem. Well, it's a bit difficult because there is more than 80,000 different types of toxins in the water. And municipalities, or let's say
My
the
goodness.
standard, test only about 100. So what they don't test for, they don't do not find. And the
Yes.
and so and also they are testing it at the beginning of the pipeline, okay, at the water supply, and whatever is in the pipeline is what you're drinking. So in our test,
Right. And
like
everybody's pipes are different.
exactly in our test, even neighbors' house have different qualities of water. So you really, if you go down to the kind of
Yeah.
first root of the basic problem, is that you do not know what you're drinking. And I think it's
Right.
okay if you do it once in a while, like taking a bit of different materials, even if it's a bit, um, it's okay. But if you take it from the same tap day after day, then it adds up. So the main problem about tap water is you really cannot know what you have inside, or most people don't know. and that even if it's small
Right.
amounts of something, then it adds up as the year go by.
Right. Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. That's a really an amazing illustration of kind of what happens from start to finish. Because most of us don't know. We don't really think it through. Like, where does water start in nature, and then what happens between there and when it comes out in our faucet? There's so much that happens. Um,
Exactly.
so like you said, the condition of the water is just it's not in great shape. I think I heard you in another interview on another podcast, and you used a word that I thought summed it up perfectly from everything I've learned so far. And you said the water is basically traumatized by the time it
Exactly.
comes out of your tap, and that can mean several different things, right? But
Yeah.
that's pretty much what we're dealing with.
I think when we're talking about like the trauma of water in a way that happens in the pipeline, it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of because now we talked about the chemical level, yeah, what the water has inside, what's
Right.
but it's also how the
Right.
water is the composition of the water, but it's also have a kind of structure or clutters or kind of, it's very hard to define it
Yes.
because it's always moving, and there are many big
Mm-hmm.
scientists that are experimenting about it. But
Mm-hmm.
I can say from my humble point of view, you can see how water in nature always go in a swirling curve. Even if it's a small
Right.
raindrop falling on a window, it doesn't fall straight, as kind of straight physics
No, never.
would say. It kind of crawl down. And this is something that
Mm-hmm.
another thing that I learned from water is why does it do it? Because it doesn't go in the shortest path. It goes through the least resisting path. Okay, so it's as it swirls,
Right.
it has less resistance as it advances, and so in a way, water always is swirling. This is kind of the typologic movement of water, and
In nature. Yeah.
in nature, and in our pipelines, they are condensed in straight lines for very long length and pressure,
Right.
and have no connection with the oxygen outside. I mean, like a streaming river that is always breathing. It really is kind of
Right.
doesn't have that connection with air, and it's trying to move like a river. That's it's but it's always kind of
Yeah.
framed, and so we see kind of the water come out of the tap kind of traumatized, broken in a way. But this is
Yeah. Yeah.
some some people say dead water. I mean, like they have this. I really don't like that
Sure.
expression because I think water is always alive. It always have this uh, option or this ability to heal itself or to kind of revitalize
Right.
itself. And so we just need to kind of observe nature and see how it does it and kind of mimic that.
Well, I want to get more I want to get more into that because that is fascinating stuff, but I think, a lot of people wonder. I think they think, okay, well, I know that when the water comes out of my tap, I probably should run it through some sort of a filter because I should get some of the chemicals out, that are in there. Again, like you said, people don't really know what's in there because it could be stuff that it gathered along the way, but also it could be stuff that it gathered in the pipes in your own home and all the things. So, but I think one thing that I mean, what based on your research, what I think the real question is why does it really matter at the end of the day? Why is it so much more healthy for us and just for our health, better for our health and well-being to drink water that is number one pure, and then number two revitalize, which we'll get more into here in a minute with talking about kind of where you left off a second ago. But why does it really matter all that much? Because a lot of people would think, you know what, it's good enough. There's no need to mess with it, and I know that there's reasons for it. But what does your research and your studies show you?
So I think first thing is kind of water is what we made of. Yeah, 70% of our body weight. I mean,
Yeah.
it's water. It's the one element that we intake the most every day. I mean, we think so much about what we eat. I mean, how we serve it, what we put it in, and the mixture of
Right.
elements that it has. But we don't think so much about the water that we drink. That is more than half of that. Let's say that more. And I think this is a
Yeah.
blank spot that we should kind of open our mind, or kind of uh, mind the gap, yeah, that we have in this. And I
Yeah.
think the funny thing is, it's because you're so used to it, it's so obvious that you don't think about it. Yeah, water is the most common element on
Right.
Earth, but you don't think about it
Yeah.
as. And so okay, so let's start with that. And I think cleaning the water in a way before you drink it is really like washing your vegetables before you eat them. Because even if you don't think,
Yeah.
like, if you think that the state of the water is good, in order to keep the water healthy, municipal water, they have to put chlorine in it, okay, to kill all
Yes.
the microorganism. Because, and this is very important. In places that they don't put it, then there's a lot of diseases. But as you wash your
Right.
vegetables before you eat them, you should kind of clean at least that out, because they didn't put it in the intention for you humans to drink it. They say it's not harmful enough, but again, you're drinking it day in and
Right.
day out, uh, and um, and I think this is kind of one thing I have to say about it. The other thing is the water that we have drank as children and the water today are not the same, because it's something that is clear and
Yes.
doesn't really have people don't kind of recognize the taste of water. It's kind of water. It's a
Hmm.
general name, but it's really not the same. And in each country, we can they have its own history of water, which is very interesting. But it's really not the
True.
same as we
Mm-hmm.
drink. So don't kind of illude illude yourself that if it was okay for me, then it's okay for my children, because the water that we're giving them is really not the water that we got. We're giving them water that
Yes.
no human being have drank before. Actually, it's a really kind of, it's different composition, and I think there is two ways to look at it. Like in many other things in life, you can kind of trust and just swallow what you're given, or you can kind of take control
Mm-hmm.
and decide what you put in your body, kind of by learning and choosing, um, at least do it kind of from a conscious way. So I think the first kind of
Yeah.
step would be learn about it, learn what you have in your water. What's, and there's a very easy way actually to do it in the US. You have like a big database with I think more than 30 million tests of water uh, by zip code.
Okay.
Okay, so you can just put your zip code.
Okay.
I'll send you the link, and so we can put it there, and each one can
Yeah, I'll
know,
put it in the show notes. Absolutely.
yeah, what they have in the water. Kind of, this is step one, let's say, and then step two would be,
Yes.
what do you want to put in your water? Okay, so let's say there's first thing, the things that you do not want to have in it, and then there is a thing that you do want, and that is very interesting because
Right.
um, let's say in Israel, most of the water is desalinated. Okay, so and also there are states
Okay.
in the US that starting to desalinate water in a rapidly fast way, because there
Mm-hmm.
our natural sources are polluted or kind of finishing. Um,
You're right.
and so we have studies over a huge population about what happens if you drink water without minerals. It's the first time, I think, in humanity that you had like a big population drinking water that is really pure, but doesn't have any
Right.
added minerals back, like not the magnesium, not the zinc, iodine,
Right.
many other. And so over the years, they tested it, and now there is kind of a complete scientific agreement that drinking water without minerals is also really not healthy in the long term. It hurts the immune system, it hurts the
Right.
heart, it hurts really the healing powers of the body, because it needs these minerals, and it needs it from water, not only from food. And and so
Okay.
and also this is combining these two things, because step one, you have to purify the water, but step two, you have to add back the minerals, and kind of, and
Right.
this is, I think that it's I think this is where the individual tastes come, because each water, each spring has its own mineral blend
Mm-hmm.
depending on the terroir, on the ground from where it's coming from. So if that uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ground had more magnesium, and so people like a certain water. In my opinion, it's because that's exactly what their body needs. Okay, you have a lot of
Yeah.
the substance that your body needs intaking in the water. So if you kind of start feeling or kind of tasting the water that you're drinking, uh, you get to this point that I mean, yeah, like from the taste that you know that the water that you're drinking are good. Like the taste of it is something very,
Yeah.
very crucial that can help you define if the water that you're tasting is really good or not.
It's very specific, isn't it? Yeah,
Mhm.
it's very specific. I think you're right. You know, when you're drinking like truly really healthy fortified water, for a lack of a better word, that you can taste it. I mean, there is a distinct taste there, and it's unmistakable. You mentioned earlier that in nature, of course, the animals prefer to drink from springs. They drink spring water because they instinctually know that that is the healthiest water on the planet, pretty much, right? As long as it's not that spring, that natural spring has not been messed with or tampered with in some way, or messed up somehow by humans. but
Yeah.
but what? So some people think, and I understand where they're coming from, but I also understand why this is why I think this is not the answer. I want to hear what you think, but a lot of people think, okay, natural spring water is the healthiest water on the planet for human life, basically. But why can't I just go buy bottled natural spring water? And why isn't that the answer here?
Yeah.
So what would you like to share about
So
that?
yeah, I think this is one of the biggest motivation and kind of if I bad days I'm kind of remembering myself is because that's what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, people have losing their trust in tap water because of what we said. Let's say one of every four Americans is not drinking tap water today, and but the
Yeah.
problem is what's the alternative? And then they buy water in plastic bottles, but again they don't know what they have in the plastic bottle. I mean, plastic bottled water is not one type of water. Okay, it comes from many different
Right.
sources, and it's much less regulated than tap water. So it has the same problems. And on top of that, it has another layer,
Mm-hmm.
two layers of problem. One is the plastic bottle, which, as we said, water reacts with everything. And so in every plastic bottle that you're
Mm-hmm.
drinking, you're drinking also microplastic, and the water kind of dissolves the plastic in it. And um, and
Okay.
actually, it's not the same water as in the spring, because the water sits in the bottle sometimes a year or more, and it's a living kind of
Right.
element. So it's not like if you test it, even the oxygen level or different kind of the charge of the water, it's really kind of losing its energy. Um, but far
Mm-hmm.
most, the biggest problem is that we're trashing our planet. We're trashing the water cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, there's in Hebrew kind of a saying spitting in the well that you're drinking from. And so that's what we're doing. And
Yeah.
bottled water is consumed for water about 1 million bottles a minute worldwide. That's enough to
Mm,
circle the globe 9 times a day, every day. And
that's
because
frightening.
one plastic bottle takes about 500 years to decompose. Every plastic bottle ever
Mm,
created is still here. And so this is something we have to stop. And that's where I want to kind of rise the conscious and talk about the solution that we came kind of suggested and kind of also encourage people to find other solution in a way because we don't want to
yes.
compromise our water quality, but we don't want to buy
Right.
bottled water and one because it's not ecological, but also it's not really healthy and it's not really better. So
Yeah.
how do you create spring-like water at home? And how do you get that um, that problem. So the way is, instead of going to the spring, which now 100% of spring
Mm-hmm.
also have microplastic and different contamination, even if it's natural today,
Ugh,
as we talked at the
yeah.
beginning, yeah, then it's, instead of taking water from there, because the spring needs the water, okay? Nature needs the water there. The animals need the water. You cannot just take it and go, okay?
That's true. We shouldn't be taking it away, right?
Oh, not
Yeah.
not all of it, okay? Not all of it, but instead of that,
Not all of it. Yeah, exactly.
we have the capability to learn from nature, to observe, understand how it
Mm-hmm.
works, and instead of taking and exploiting, kind of learning and creating an abundance of it. And again,
Right.
let's say in Israel, we're creating all the water that we need. Yeah, we're in the middle of the desert and we have water, and
Mm-hmm.
we even kind of selling water to the countries around because the problem became a solution that we can create abundance of it. So how do you create this
Right.
spring water at home instead of bringing it home, kind of learning and bringing the logic, the wisdom of nature to your home? And this is really what we kind of came to do. And so we took the steps of the
Yep.
water cycle and tried to do it inside our home in a very fun, simple, and elegant way to celebrate the
Mm-hmm.
beauty and the life of water. So step one, we filter everything out. This can be done by two technologies, current technologies, uh, which is reverse
Mm-hmm.
osmosis or thermal distillation. It's two ways to get
Right.
almost pure H2O, let's say, really good, like rain.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the thing that we have learned, like as a humanity in the past 12 years, is that filtration is just this first step. It's not enough. After you filter, then
Mm-hmm.
keep the water in a kind of swirling motion, keep the water in its natural motion to bring back its structure
Yes.
and to bring back oxygen. Because when you filter out the water, you filter everything out, even the dissolved oxygen, not the oxygen of H2O, but the
Right.
dissolved oxygen inside it. So you have to bring that uh, living element back in the water, and then add the minerals
Okay.
and then add the essential minerals as can be found in natural spring, which mean magnesium, zinc, um, calcium, and many other. I'm like in most of the spring, you have
Yeah.
between 30 to 70 different types of minerals and microelements. So it's really kind of a rich
Okay.
blend, um, and
Yes.
that is the way to do it. I mean, I can show you how we do it here. I have like
Yeah. Please. So those are the three vital processes you talk about basically is filtering it very well as best you can to the best type filter situation you can get your hands on and then basically going from there to the aeration and then to the remineralization. And that is creating what you call, and well, what technically is living water, basically, right? It is comparable to the cleanest natural spring water is pretty much what we're going for here.
yeah, it's really kind of trying to make spring water at home. So in a way,
Yes.
we fill this carafe with
And this is the Mayu swirl that you're showing us, which is
yeah,
beautiful. I call it a functional piece of art. I just think it's so lovely. And I've had one for about 3 months or 4 months now. I use it every day, all day long, and it's amazing. Amazing.
yeah. Let me um, give a different background. Um,
Sure.
but okay, so you fill the carafe up to the 1.5 liter mark here with
Uh huh.
purified water, meaning water that is either thermal distilled or reverse osmosis. This water is the first
Mm-hmm.
way, as we said, to make sure that you have no toxin and no anything that you don't want to drink. You have to take everything out because we have, again, about
Right.
80,000 different elements. You don't know exactly what you need to take out. You need to take everything out as nature does in the first
Yeah.
stage of the cloud. And then keep the water in motion. It's giving the air, it's aeration. And this is also what gives the water its structure, the way the
Mm-hmm.
double helix vortex kind of um, putting the water back in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a very complex movement. Can talk about that a bit later.
Yeah.
And step three is add the
It's
minerals.
beautiful to watch.
Yeah. Here, so we have a very condensed solution of natural minerals
Mm-hmm.
from many different places around the world. And you add 12 drops to it.
Mm-hmm.
And voila, you have water that is pure, that is structured,
Yeah.
aerated, and with
Mm-hmm.
minerals as spring water.
And it's that
Uh,
easy. It's just not, it's not complicated. It really is not. It's so, again, I've been doing this now for a few months. I only just got the minerals like a few weeks ago. So now I'm using those too. Before I was putting a pinch of Himalayan pink salt in, which I guess is better than nothing, but it's not the same as what you guys have created with your mineral. Um,
yeah,
with your minerals drops that you can put in there. There's a whole lot more going on in those drops. So, yeah, it's fantastic. It's very easy and it's lovely to watch and listen to that thing do its thing. The
yeah,
carafe do its thing. The
yeah,
base is beautiful. The
yeah,
packaging was beautiful. Like you guys, it really is a special. It's special, is what it is. It's not, you do not feel like you just went to Target or Walmart or, whatever and bought something off the shelf and threw it in a bag and came home. Like it's a real, you guys are doing a beautiful job with the experience of it all. I think that's really important because it becomes more ritualistic that way too, I think. And you just start to look at your water differently.
exactly. I think kind of water is a gift that we all got. Yeah, it's a gift of life, and it's a gift that is something to share.
Yeah.
And we wanted to share our love
Yeah.
of water kind of with the world to everybody to see how beautiful it is and kind of not putting it away as something, the simplest part of the meal, let's say of kind of a
Mhm.
big family meal or kind of when we celebrate food, we want to celebrate water as well and make it the
Yes.
conversation piece of and kind of bring it back to the stage. So I think
And
this
that
is
is so smart. Yeah. It's beautiful because I love that base, which is so gorgeous all by itself, and then that carafe is beautiful, and I love that you can charge it up. It holds a charge for what 5 hours or something like that.
at least.
So you can take it and, like you just said, put it on the dinner table so it can be a centerpiece. It can be in the middle where everybody, first of all, has access to it, but can enjoy it. And really, I mean, genius. Like truly, I'm so impressed with what you guys have done and how you're going
Uh,
about this whole thing. But
yeah,
most importantly is just the health of, it's just so incredibly healthy for people.
I
It's
would say
beautiful.
about that because we
It's
went
beautiful.
a long way to kind of make it very easy for the dinner use. So it has on the bottom of the base kind of a weight sensor.
Uh-huh.
So when you put the carafe,
Uh-huh.
it really starts automatically and
It just
of
goes up. Yeah.
it calibrates the speed according to the amount of
I
water
love it.
inside the carafe. So you really just use it like this.
Oh,
But
it does.
and suddenly what I love the most is again we said we are overlooking our water. Yeah, we don't think about it. But suddenly this thing that we do
Right.
every day, people stop and say, "Ah, wow, what is that?" And it's like it's water. Yeah, it's the same thing, but you just can look at it a bit different and
Yeah.
start this journey that every person takes it to a different way, but start the journey after water, and that leads us to understand how everything is connected. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you said, it's drinking that really healthy water, that really restructured, sort of revitalized water that is as close to natural mineral water, natural spring water as you could possibly get. I mean, it's probably perfectly mimics the most healthy spring water, I would assume, based on how you guys have designed it. Um, But drinking that every day, you are going to feel a difference after a while. If you've just been drinking
Yeah.
nothing but regular tap water, even bottled water, there is something different. And especially if you're putting the minerals in there, there is just something so profoundly different about water when it's, even if you're just aerating it and you're just, you're filtering it and then you're putting it in the swirl and letting it breathe, basically pull oxygen into it. That is powerful
That
by
by itself.
itself. And then you go
Yeah.
and you add like the minerals that you guys developed, that just is a whole nother level. So it is, and it's like you said, until people do it, they're not going to realize, because we take water for granted in most parts of the world. And it's just something that's always been there, and we trust that the powers that be, our governments and whatever, are going to make sure it's safe when it comes out of our tap, which could not be further from the truth, unfortunately. And so, and then we're cooking with it. And some people think, well, I don't even drink water, which is a problem all by itself when when it comes to your health. But that, you're cooking with it, and you're bathing in it, and like you're using water for everything. But it's that water that you should be drinking a lot of every day, and also cooking with, that is really of concern. And it builds, like you said, all that stuff comes in, it builds up in your tissues over time. That's just not good for a person. Our bodies aren't supposed to have those chemicals and toxins and things in there. So if you can clean your water and then revitalize it, like what you guys have made possible there. And I have to tell you, I was so excited to find your product, because I had learned about sort of this restructuring of water, which, honestly, to be honest, when I first heard about things like water has memory and living water, and I was hearing this language, I'm like, I don't know about all that. That seems kind of like out in left field. But I'm ever curious, and I started just listening to various very smart people talk about Gerald Pollack, who's a scientist actually here in my own backyard out of Seattle area in Washington State, and some of these other people that are very smart people, obviously, and they're explaining what does that mean, the structure of water, and the and how it has a memory, that it can, like you said, it can heal itself, basically. You can use whatever words you want if those are too out there for a person, but that is what is happening scientifically. And so when I started to learn about that, I thought, that's incredible. And I thought, okay, well, I need to start. Like, I had already bought a countertop reverse osmosis machine. And even before that, which is really nice to be able to have a little countertop one, because I know people would have to go to great trouble to put reverse osmosis in their house prior to, it's called AquaTrue is the name of the one that I have. And I've been real happy with it. But I also have found like a really great company here in the US that builds the filters based on, like you said, they put in your zip code, they get the survey from your local water authority, and they build your water filter based on that. Now, they don't know what's in your pipes, so they can't
Yeah.
accommodate for that. But so those are really good filters if somebody can't afford like a reverse osmosis type setup. But the thing is I was just doing that, and I thought, well, now I need to swirl my water. And I was looking all over the place. I was looking on YouTube. I kept finding these, oh, we'll just get a little, and it does work, but it's kind of a nuisance, but get a little hand mixer thing and stick it in there, and it will swirl the water. And it does, but it's not, it's a whole other thing you got to do. And then I found your guys' product, the Mayu swirl, and I could not believe it. I just instantly, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I've been looking for. And the reviews were raving. And I thought, that's beautiful. It's practical. It's simple. And then I ordered one immediately. And so I've been telling everybody about them. And
Yeah.
I had to become an affiliate for you guys, because I'm like, this is incredible. So I'm just so
Yes.
happy to get to sit down and talk with you about this, because I do think that, like I said, people understand the chemicals and things, but they don't necessarily understand, first of all, that there's a lack of minerals, number one, which is a big deal when it comes to your
Big deal.
health. There's a lack of minerals in your tap water. And that it's not aerated, and it's structurally, it has been damaged. And these things do matter when it comes to your health and your wellness. And Now, talk about so the aeration. People are familiar with aeration when it comes to wine, right? Everybody knows how to swirl their red wine in their glass to
Exactly,
get the air in there,
exactly.
and it makes it taste better. But what does when you swirl the water to pull the oxygen in? What is releasing? What's happening at that point? What's happening
Oh,
to the water?
yeah. And so again, as I said, every different element has a cascade, like a fountain of reaction that cause like a chain reaction. So when you put oxygen in water, it causes a chain reaction,
Mm-hmm.
like in chemistry. So one thing
Okay.
uh, is every element that you put in the water, as the water has two oxygen and one oxygen and two hydrogen, then it's kind of a magnet, let's say. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
plus and minus. It's like this game that you can put all the magnets in different ways. And when you put a new element
Uh
inside,
huh.
let's say a new oxygen, then all the magnets are kind of arranged around it and start creating this crystal of magnets. Let's say. And so every element that you put
Mm-hmm.
inside it brings a different shape, and the mixture of elements and the way they are set up is really, if you look in the microscope on how the water is organized around these elements. Uh, so
Mm-hmm.
just kind of shaking them and letting them arrange themselves around as they do in nature is, um, is really important. And kind of talking about living water, I think I too, as a scientist, didn't like that word at the beginning, okay? Because living have such
Mm-hmm.
many different. You say the word and everybody think about it in a different way. I want to react to the thing that you said at
Right.
the first, and I think the first thing is kind of first hand experiencing it because you cannot talk about food that you haven't tasted. Yeah, you cannot say
Right.
it's yeah, it's something if you never tasted cinnamon, you cannot really explain how it tastes or what does it do to your body. And I think it's
True.
in the same
Yeah.
way. It's about kind of living water or kind of water that is as in nature, let's say.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing that we found out that let's say water in our bodies, we are also kind of a river. Yeah, we're drinking water in and we're taking water out. So
Yep.
calculating the pace that this is changing, about every 13 and a half days, you're replacing all the water that you have in your body. So I think
Oh,
uh,
that's interesting.
everybody that wants to kind of make this, yeah, it's really nice to think about it. Like if you're traveling to a different place and after 2 weeks, you're built like 70% of your mass is from water from that
Yeah.
origin. And
Isn't
so
that interesting?
when you try to test, and I really encourage everybody, if the first people I want to encourage that if you're drinking bottled water, please stop now and do like the more economic,
Yeah.
ecological, and kind of sane way to consume your water. Start filtering it and add minerals. Okay, and try it for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and then we can kind of there's a basic of conversation saying how do you feel about it. You felt a lot, didn't feel a lot, feel it, because it's something that is so sincere. And I think most of
Yeah.
the people, the second people that I would kind of encourage them to try it is people that don't like water, because these are the people that I think
Yes.
that are most sensitive. And there is a good reason why they don't like water because they are sensitive and they don't
Mm.
like the tap
Mm-hmm.
water because it's not exactly what they need. And we've heard it once and again, like wow, like now suddenly I like water, and I think this is
Isn't
something
that
that
amazing?
it, it is. I think it really is because we don't treat right our delicacy of taste. Okay, we think it as something that is bother us. Like if we smell too much,
Hmm.
yeah, then many things bother us. If we taste too much and we don't like things that are like water. But these people
Yep.
they have this the sensitivity that is it's a bless and a curse sensitivity, let's say. So you have to use it
Yeah.
as a gift and try it. Really, 2 weeks, and if you can change either, as I said, not drinking bottled water or start drinking water and not sugar drinks or any other drinks.
Yeah.
And you're really, really doing good to yourself and to the planet. And it's
Hmm.
easy, accessible. It's for us. I mean, we started it when my first daughter was born, and we really didn't have any other choice.
Hmm.
I was looking for the best water I could give to my family, and from that, our whole journey
Hmm.
started. And so, in a way, I'm really excited and kind of honored to be dealing with this element and feel it kind of as it's the water that brought it to us. And and I'm happy that
Yeah.
it's possible now to create really, truly healthy water that you know that has only the elements that you want, that is nurturing yourself and giving your own body that's respectful while respecting all the other living beings and not taking their precious water out or polluting their. So this is kind of bringing back
Right.
the healthy circle of consumption and co-living with all the other.
I love that. Yeah, we're leaving the spring. We're leaving the spring water in the springs so the animals have it that need it. We're getting our water elsewhere, and we're just cleaning it up and revitalizing it basically, and making it healthy once again. And it is. I agree with you. I think these are the things that you can't think your way through. You just have to try them, right? So in other words, you can sit there and you can and wonder about, well, what's that thing do, and how's it taste, and this and that. But or you can just try it, like you said, for at least a couple weeks and see how you feel and see what you think of the taste and the smell and this and that. And the reality is and I don't think anybody would argue this. Bottled water is not inexpensive. It is expensive. Even when you get it on sale, it's expensive over time. And doing something like with what you have with the Mayu swirl is so much more affordable. Like I can't even compare the two over time. It's just and it doesn't take very much time to for that thing to pay for itself. Basically, it's and not to mention bottled water. I have always found it to be, because I would normally, when I did buy it way back when, I would buy it in the gallons a lot of times because it's less expensive to get a big jug of it rather than those little bottles. And they're a nuisance. They're terrible to have to carry those things home from the grocery store and find places for them in your house. And they're awful. So they're terrible for the planet. They're a nuisance. They get expensive very quickly, actually. If you sit and if you drink bottled water all the time and you add up how much you're spending in a year, it's a lot of money. So it makes so much more sense to do something where you're doing it in a sustainable way, much more affordable way. And like you said, you're taking care of the animals, you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of the planet. It's a win-win-win for sure.
Completely, yeah.
So
No, this is
yeah,
again,
it's
this
incredible.
is I'm really encouraging and everybody out there that kind of feel the same way and want to help this movement because
Yeah,
we're not alone in this kind of way of changing the way we consume things, kind of moving out single-use
right.
plastic because we have to do it. I mean, we have no other choice, and let's do it in a kind of
Yeah,
fun way. Let's celebrate this change and just make it
yeah,
more nice, more aesthetic, more pleasing, more healthier, better tasting. Like getting the best
yes.
out of changing our habits.
Yeah, 100%. And I to go back a couple steps, I was so interested to find out when I heard you say, or I read in some of your literature, now I can't remember which it was. But anyways, you were talking about when the water swirls, another thing that happens is not only is it pulling oxygen in, but it's releasing certain things that are in the water that you don't want in your water, which I was surprised, like gases that or something that turns to gas. Can you explain that
So
a little bit better?
yeah, sure. I mean, it really depends. We talked about the process of 3 steps. And the good thing about it that
Mm-hmm.
every step you can do by itself, it improves the water. I mean, you can just filter it.
Yeah.
It's good. You can just swirl it. And what happens if you swirl tap water? Helps dissolve the volatile elements that are in the water. Let's say when you go to a swimming pool, you
Okay.
can smell the chlorine, right? Because it's volatile, because it's something that
Yeah.
returns into gas, then you can smell it. So when it's in the water and you swirl it, you're helping increasing the gas exchange between the atmosphere and the water by 6,000 times at least.
Mm-hmm.
So you're accelerating
Oh
a
my.
natural process of evaporation of chlorine from the water. So just drilling it without
Okay.
needing to add any filters or helps accelerating the release of chlorine and other volatile compounds that you may have in the water. But again, each water is individual, so you cannot say. It's not a filter system. Okay, don't mix that. I mean, it doesn't take all of the bad
Right.
things out the water. It improves it mainly by adding back the oxygen, which is lacking
Mm-hmm.
in tap water. And then the water kind of organizes itself around that oxygen, doing this structured water. And and um,
Okay.
and and uh, and then this comes up a bit sweeter because the oxygen have kind of a small sweet taste. So it's
Mm-hmm.
and I think another element that we do not talk enough about is seeing the water, kind of the interaction that you have with the thing that you're taking in. I mean, it's in all the different cultures, and I think again, it's not something that I can explain scientifically, but you cannot.
Right.
If you do it, you can feel exactly what it makes. So, looking at the water and saying, "Wow, this is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing," and then taking this in or kind of appreciating it is a very kind of the
Mm-hmm.
fourth most important step, I would say, and
Yeah.
in this kind of relationship that we have with the thing that brings us life.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a hard thing for probably some people to wrap their head around. I completely get it. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think if people can just realize everybody knows that we are energy. We are just all energy. That's what we are, right? And so we 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 are always emanating some sort of energy personally, each of us. It changes all the time, right? What we're in a good mood, we're in a bad mood, we're happy, we're sad, we're grateful, we're whatever, but there's an energy attached to those emotions. And so I think what it is probably with water and that exchange with water is water, like you said, interacts with everything that it encounters. That's just one of its abilities that it has to interact. And so if it's interacting with our energy, so if we're looking at this water and we're thinking it's beautiful and it gives us a good feeling, a warm feeling, or we're grateful or whatever, we're there's an energy coming off of us that's associated with those feelings. And I think maybe the water, we don't know. Again, you said not everything can be explained scientifically, but if water
Yeah,
interacts with everything around it, why would it not be interacting with the energy that it's picking up from us? We're holding it in our hand or it's near us or whatever. So maybe that's what it is. Who knows? It's one of the great mysteries of life, right? There's so many. But
yeah,
I think if nothing else, for us just to take a moment and have gratitude is powerful for our own well-being, right? Regardless. So
it is.
if that's all it is, that's good enough for
And if you can remind it like
But
every time you drink, because you drink along the day. So I think this is kind of
yes.
again, as we said, it's a journey and water is many different levels. But if you can get to this level, even one time a
Hmm.
day, at the first kind of cup you have in the morning, kind of say, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this is great to have this element that actually enables life here on Earth, and we didn't do anything to get it. We just get it as a gift, got it as a gift,
We're
and
we're
and
just
and
we're just blessed to have it. And yeah.
and then our only all our yeah, and our only role here is to keep it, okay, not ruin it, because it has its
Yeah.
own power, okay, but we got
Yes.
it as a gift. Just please kind of help keeping this gift for it to keep on cycling and giving life, and again, doing good for yourself
Absolutely.
and good for all the other living things around you, around us,
Yeah.
and this is kind of
Yeah.
the way I think, and kind of again, let's say another higher level, the swirling motion of the water kind of combines the
Hmm.
circular movement and the kind of straight movement, and kind of really
Hmm.
help us kind of advance in technology, use science, use all our and learn from the past, from the circular kind of ancient wisdom, and kind of combine these two into a new realism where we are super techy. I mean, we're talking from two sides of the world at the same time, and people can see it. And yeah,
Yep.
we're really in a very technological reality, but
It's
in the same
amazing.
time,
Yeah.
we need to kind of strengthen our connection and bring nature back in, bring the wisdom of nature in our homes in this time of in this crazy era. And yeah, and
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's true. I talk about it all the time. The more we disconnect from nature and the more we think we're smarter than nature, the bigger trouble we get into. Personally, physically, and as a human race. We have got to reconnect, number 1, to nature as individuals and as a human race, but also we need to start paying more attention and learning from and listening to, like, people did many, many, many years ago. Somewhere along the way, like you said, with all the technology and all these things, we've gotten so far away from that, and it's gotten us in so much trouble, and it's hurts our health, in so many different ways. And so I'm thrilled to, that you guys are offering this solution. What else? I know you guys are probably working on other things too. What's sort of the vision for Mayu
wow,
Water
wow,
going down
wow.
forward?
Yeah, we have a lot of cooking here in Mayu Labs,
Yeah.
and it's really such a pleasure to working with these people around me, um, great-minded and passionate heart, trying to find out the best way to give this present back to man. And we're talking about
Yeah.
these three steps about purification, aeration, making the vortex, the swirl, and mineralization. And
Yep.
we're building a machine that does this all these three steps in one, kind of at a press of a button.
Oh
So
my.
it's going to be really exciting, really, really
Oh, that's
beautiful.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
That is.
so stay tuned and sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Good for you guys. So when are you guys, I know this is probably a moving target, but when are you guys hoping to release that product? Do you know what year or
Um, yeah, I mean, let's. They say that the process is for fools, you know. Like it's hard to say these times, but we're working on it hard,
yeah. Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
we really want to pick it as fast as possible since this
Mhm.
is the we have to stop the use of single-use plastic. Kind of join this global
Yeah.
movement of finding solution to this problem and be able to give truly healthy, tasty, beautiful water without doing
Mhm.
the bad part. And this is why we wake up every day and kind of rush to work and keep on doing it with such
Yeah.
passion. So,
Yeah.
and every person that buys and kind of contribute and or tell about it is really, really helpful in this path. It's been a tough journey actually these past 2 years, and
Yes.
we're working
Yes.
on it since like almost 7 years now. But these past 2 years have been challenge. Yeah, um,
It's
and
been a tough time with the pandemic. It's messed up so many things, including like the supply chain that probably affects you guys with production and all of that. I would assume
exactly,
that's been challenging too. But just the
exactly,
fact that people with losing their jobs and things, they want to hunker. They feel like I need to pinch every penny right now, and all these things. It's a combination of factors. And I know I'm also, I have a small business of my own that I've had for 14 years. Has nothing to do with my podcast, but it's been rough. It's tough times. But you guys keep going because you are onto something so special. It's I'll keep doing my part to spread the word. And
yeah,
where's the best place if somebody wants to learn more about what you guys are up to, see your products? Well, share your website and then also maybe like your social media account that you prefer to send
yeah,
people to.
yeah. I will share that, and I can send you like also kind of a link for a more in-depth blog that we write about structured water, about the
Oh, I'd
different
lof it.
filtration process, and yeah, there's so much to
Wonderful.
learn. It's an ocean to
Hmm.
of knowledge is really
Yes.
out there, And this time, it's the easiest time in history to learn things. Yeah, so just explore.
Yes.
So if you want to
Yeah,
learn, then
we have no excuse, do we?
yeah, yeah, we do not.
We have no excuse.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
no.
But we
So
have
good. Yeah, send me the links. It's Mayu. I believe it's my. Is it
.com.
mayuwater.com? Is
Yeah,
it, and
mayuwater.com.
is that the
Exactly,
okay? And
mayuwater.com.
then what's the Instagram?
It's
Is Mayu Water, I
my
think.
water. Yeah, at my water. And
Okay, and I'll put all those in all the links in the show notes and everything too, and yeah, because people. A lot of people. Some people don't want to learn; they just want to do. And hey, just do it. You know,
yeah,
if you're like, I like the sounds of that, and I'm going to try it, then go for it. And
yeah,
then there's the other people that need to read a little more and learn a little more, and that's okay too.
yeah,
It's wonderful to keep learning. That's
yeah,
important. So,
yeah.
well, thank you so much for your time. I know it's
Thank
really
you.
late there. Send Shy my best. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet her this time, but
Soon enough,
we'll
we're
do it
making it
next
happen.
time.
Yeah,
And it was such a pleasure. Really
really.
was. Thank you
Also,
so
for me
much.
to connect like this, yeah, I'm honored and have a first
Yes.
health and then happiness and all the rest. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.